cesspool of crap. And our capital and our government is spewing diarrhea on them. They're not getting the help they need, and they're drowning under this mess. So we're not even getting hot dogs out. And I think that's why we need a grand jury petition. I have a new idea of what I'm seeing, and I think as a public, we're getting something different out of our government than we thought. We're not getting hot dogs, and our kids certainly aren't getting hot dogs. Our kids would love hot dogs. So I don't think I can get to the grand jury petition until I clear the air on something that's happened in my family's life over the last 2 weeks. And so I think it clarifies a little bit of what's happened in my family, maybe give you an idea of some of the things that have been said about me and my family recently that bring a little reality to what we're doing here. About a year ago, the Criminal Justice and Corrections Committee asked me to speak along with some other advocates for children at the Capitol. We gave testimony of how hard it is to try and protect your children when they're already in distress, and then the system comes in and it really hurts them. And how the hopelessness of the oppression of that feels on a family. And we've met hundreds and thousands of families since then. That committee had the compassion and the understanding and the wisdom to recognize that waiting on the legislator to do something wasn't a solution. So at the end of that committee hearing, the chairman, along with his committee members, they voted as a majority to invoke the OSBI to investigate on behalf of children in Oklahoma. That investigation has not taken place. We don't exactly know why, but some of that's why we have the petition. Because we weren't protecting our kids. We asked to protect our kids, and we didn't even try to go see why we weren't protecting our kids. So about 6 to 8 months later, District Attorney Adam Panter requested of our Attorney General that we do a multi-county grand jury investigation, just investigate on all kids across Oklahoma, and that was turned down. So we didn't get that investigation. Well, when you've been everywhere, when you've been to the courts and you've been to the executive branch and your constant emails and calls to the governor's office come back empty, and your constant evidence that's being presented to the Attorney General's office comes back nothing, and you go to the legislator and they say we can't accomplish anything, but we'll at least ask somebody to do something, and you get nothing. It's time for the people to do something. So we decided we would file a grand jury petition by signature, and if the people in Payne County think we should figure out what's going on, we're going to figure it out. We're going to get it done by signatures, because then they can't tell us no. Through this process, we've named some people on this petition by name and office, and some of that is very specific because we know what they've done. Some of that is very specific because we know their office and their coworkers and their agency need to be looked into because they're not getting the results for our children that we need. And I don't think anybody on the list or anybody in the audience here or around Payne County or Oklahoma would say we're getting the results we need. We rank last in everything. We don't protect our children. Our children grow up using drugs and e-vapes, cigarettes. We have the highest teen pregnancy, dropouts, suicide. Anything you want to talk about, our kids are doing it. Then we send those kids to our schools, and our schools don't have the funding they need, but they're getting the kids that we've left broken. And they're supposed to try and help those kids and educate them. It's just not going to happen. Those kids didn't just suffer from the trauma of what happened to them. They suffer from the trauma of what our broken system did to them and their families, and left their families broke and out of money. And anybody raises your hand up, it gets slapped down. And I'm just going to tell you, I know it's a little bit of trauma over the last 2 days, but I am literally concerned that I'm going to get arrested while I'm speaking with you guys today. I have a genuine fear that I'm going to get arrested while I'm speaking to you today. My wife was threatened to be arrested this week. My mom. And when I think about the 4 little boys that I'm trying to protect, that's extremely scary to me because I see what happens when parents get slapped down and their kids are left at risk. This week in particular has been a little tough. About a month ago, my son and I were riding around in town, and he looked at his gizmo watch and he got really upset and he didn't want to talk to me. And I asked him what was going on. And he read the message on his watch, and it was just a simple, hey, do you want to do track or PE for your extracurricular class for your first year of middle school? And you know what? Normally when you're talking about first year of middle school with my son and going to school and seeing his buddies, he'd have been excited, but he wasn't excited. And the reason he wasn't excited is because he wasn't supposed to tell me, and I wasn't supposed to know that his mom had enrolled him in a school about 150 miles away from here. She enrolled him there, and she enrolled him in a way that didn't look like I was a biological father, in a way that my phone number and email were not available. I didn't have access, I would not have access to records, and they couldn't notify me of events in the school. And he knew his mom was about to run with him. And he started crying, and he vented to me, and he told me this was the case. And you don't need to know the history of my family and my son's case to know that my son has genuine fears for his living situation, but he does. So him and I just got in the car and headed down south because he didn't even know what school he was going to get enrolled in. He thought he knew what the mascot was, so we started calling schools and we started looking for mascots. We called around Ardmore, no name in Ardmore. Got a hold of a school named Plainview and had a similar mascot, but nobody answered any of the phones there. Nobody answered any of the phones, so I got online and I looked. And sure enough, they're having enrollment in every gym that day for every school at Plainview, so I thought, let's give it a shot. We got there at 7:45 that night. I asked if I could see his enrollment paperwork, and they said they were excited to have him as a new student, but no, they couldn't let me see his paperwork because I wasn't his biological father. So I got my ID out, and I said, can I speak to an assistant principal, something. Sure enough, we worked out the issues. They took me to the back room, and sure enough, I saw the documents that my son had been enrolled in the school where she intended to hide him, and they wouldn't be able to notify me where he was. I still had over a week of my visitation time, about a week of my visitation time, I believe, a week and a half of my visitation time. So I did what's called a notification. It's a 21, Oklahoma Statutes 21 notification. You notify all law enforcement and the judges and the courts that you're just going to hold on to your kid for a minute, even if it imposes into custody time, until you can make sure your kid is safe, because he was feeling afraid. I asked for an injunctive hearing, which is pretty common when you're having custody issues, and of course if somebody was going to move, you have to have it. The courts never responded. I asked for an emergency hearing, the courts never responded. Came upon the time I was going to have to take him back. I notified everyone, hey, my son's afraid. I'm going to keep him. I know it's going to impose on the custody for a day here, but I'm going to keep him. I did, kept him. The judges that wouldn't let me have a hearing, wouldn't let me have an injunctive hearing, wouldn't let me have an emergency hearing, wouldn't let me look into this situation at all. Filed what's called a writ of habeas corpus, to have my son removed from my home, even if it means entering the facility at all reasonable and necessary force. I was notified at the police department. I said, okay, well, you have my Title 21 notification, so you know I'm not turning him over, and I don't need to turn him over because it's for, if he's in physical, emotional, or mental distress, I'm required as an adult in Oklahoma to protect him. And they said, well, no, this is an order of a judge. I said, well, that's a judge that doesn't have jurisdiction in my case. Yeah, but it's still an order of the judge. I said, right, as a law enforcement officer, you have to enforce all lawful orders of the judge. That's not a lawful order of the judge. Well, we see it as a lawful order because it was signed by a judge, sent through the court clerk. Yeah, you're going to have to turn your son over. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll let you do a well check. I'll call in a well check on myself, and you can come talk to my kid, and if he presents in distress, then you can't turn him over either, because it wouldn't be legal for you to turn him over either. And they said, you know what, that's a great idea. So the police department was gracious. They came out, interviewed my son. My son very clearly told 4 police officers and 5 adults that he could not go back. He was not big enough to protect himself. He did not feel safe. And he started crying and saying, I'm not big enough to protect my little sister. I said, well, my child clearly presents in distress. He does not need to leave with you. It's his choice, but he does not need to leave with you. I asked him, I said, do you want to go? He said, absolutely not. We went home, he ran upstairs, grabbed everyone, hugged everyone, cried. He asked me, he said, Dad, are they going to arrest you? I said, no, bud, I don't think so. Are they going to break down our door? I said, Bud, if they break down our door, we can buy another door. I don't want you to worry about that. I want you to know that you're comfortable and you can do what's comfortable. He said, well, I'm going to go tell them what's going to happen. I said, okay, I'll stand right next to you. He went running out in the parking lot. He said, I'm not going. It's not safe. I'm not going. I don't have to go. I'm not going. I was interceded, blocked off by a couple of officers who were just keeping the peace and doing their job, and he was forced to get in a car with the person he said he wasn't safe with, and they left. The next morning, we filed multiple emergency orders with the court. Ignored, denied, nothing. We filed them into the grand jury petition on behalf of some other cases we know were urgent and imminent at the time. Ignored, nothing. The judge that had jurisdiction over the case said he would not engage the case. The judge that did not have jurisdiction just sent my kid down to the place where he said he was scared to go. So on Wednesday, it was my regular visitation time to exchange visitation for me to pick up my kid. I drove down to the school where I knew he'd be in school. And this is where I need to clear the issue on everything right now so the public knows what happened and what happened to me and my family. I knew my son would know that I would never miss a minute with him. So I just pulled into the parking lot where if he wanted to come out when he was after school and get in the car with me, he could. He was a scheduled bus rider, apparently, which I've never, still to this day, been told. He didn't come out and go look which bus he was in. He came out and he looked in the parking lot and he saw my truck and he came running. Jumped to my car. He said, Dad, do I get a stay? I said, I don't know, bud. I know what I would like. I think I know what you would like. But we really need to talk to your mom. And we need to make sure we're doing the right thing. I took him out for ice cream in Ardmore. He talked to his mom on the phone. He said, I'm with Dad, I'm getting ice cream. She said, I told you weren't going to have your regular visitation with your dad on Wednesdays and Fridays anymore. She said, okay, I expect you to be home by 8. He started crying. He said, Dad, Mom told me since I told the police that I wasn't safe and my little sister wasn't, that it'd be my fault if my 2-year-old little sister got put into the system. Well, that's not something fair. Just telling an 11-year-old boy who's sticking up for his little sister, so I got a little upset. I said, Bud, do you feel safe going back to your mom's? He said, absolutely not. I said, well, Bud, I'm not going to make you go back to your mom's because that's not legal as an adult in the state of Oklahoma. I've already given a Title 21 notification to the police in Stillwater, to the courts in Stillwater, And I filed with the Oklahoma Supreme Court the same thing, and I have notified the Ardmore Police, the Stillwater Police, the Payne County Sheriff's Department, and the Payne County Courts that I cannot put you back in distress, and if I need to hold off on returning you for custody, I have what's called a defensible immunity. He said, so I can go. I said, it's your decision, son. If you're not safe, you can go. He said, I'm going with you, Dad. So I brought him home. Same judge that has no jurisdiction in my case. Filed another writ of habeas corpus. And sent the police officers back to my house. My son texted me right before that happened, and he said, Dad, Mom's scared me again. I don't know why she keeps texting me. I said, son, I'll be right home. Get a call from the police department. They say, hey, we're at the house. We need you to turn over your son. Come to the house. The officers are extremely gracious. They say, we have another writ of habeas corpus. You need to turn over your son. I said, well, my son learned that when he came out last time and he expressed his voice, that voice was silenced and he was put into the home he didn't feel safe in. So I told my son that he did not have to turn himself over into an unsafe situation again. You have an order to go into my house and take that child if you think it's necessary. I'm going to tell you that it would be illegal for me as an adult to take that child, bring him out here, and put him in distress, so I will not do it. But I know you have your order. If you think you need to do it, you go do it. You create that illegal activity. I'm not going to do it. We need you to send your son out. I'm not going to do it. You have the order. You go do it. You have a pickup and order to pick up the child assist order. I don't have to engage in that, and I won't. And they left. They made the right decision. They left. Kept asking, kept coming by the house, driving by our houses, coming to my shop, telling me I have to do it. My son's fear grew. My son emailed the police department with pictures of what was on the phone from his mom. And he told the Stillwater Police Department that he didn't feel safe, he didn't like the threatening messages that if he didn't comply, things were going to get ugly. She used the police to get his dad in trouble. We never heard back on that yet. I've asked. Started getting messages forwarded to me that Facebook said I was going to be in trouble. I was going to be arrested. I was in trouble with the law. I was scheduled to speak at that house. It was Thursday. Corruption, judicial corruption, and child protective services. Imagine that. Representative Woolley had graciously invited me to speak on that. As you know, I was struggling with it. On the way down, I found out there were 2 warrants out for my arrest. So I told him I was sorry I couldn't speak. And I came back to Stillwater to turn myself into the Sheriff's Department. Turned myself in. My wife, who's been a champion and carried our family through this, came and bailed me out. It appears the judge that has no jurisdiction in our case filed for me to be arrested for obstructing justice when they tried to come get my kid. Well, I didn't obstruct justice. If they wanted to do their job, they could do their job. They just knew they had done it a few days before and it didn't feel very good, so they didn't do it again. I was bailed out, jumped in the car, didn't want to be late to my 5-year-old's soccer game. Went to my 5-year-old's soccer game. Police showed up, came around me again and said, Mr. Doherty, we apologize. I said, I just paid my bail. I shouldn't be getting arrested again. They said, no, this is a new one. A new one. I just bailed out. New one. This one has $1 million bond for child stealing, obstruction of justice, and various other crimes. Based off a report that I went into my child's school and removed him from his classroom, which did not happen. Based on I stole my child when I wasn't supposed to have him. Based on I was hiding and secreting the child when every single time I talked to the police department, I told them exactly where he was, and he had a gizmo watch that showed where he was at all times. The obstruction was that I apparently didn't drag the child out of the home myself, and I said, you should do the order, I can't. Never heard of $1 million bond. I was pretty sure I was going to jail forever. I can tell you I didn't steal my child. I didn't harbor or hide my child. My child asked to stay with me every time the police came, and every morning I asked him, do you miss your little sister? Do you miss your brother? Do you miss your stepdad? Do you miss... He said, no, Dad, you can't send me back. Whatever you don't send me back. I said, well, you don't ever have to go into a dangerous situation. Any adult that would make you do that is committing a crime, so just don't go. And I won't be the one to make you. They're going to have to do it. So somehow that was child stealing and obstruction of justice and secreting and hiding. My time frame's a little messed up. I apologize. I didn't get a lot of water or food or medication over the last 2 days. So give me a minute. I believe that was Thursday. I don't believe I was picked up on $1 million bond because I was protecting my child. On Thursday, the 28th, amazingly enough, one of the people listed in the petition to be either indicted or removed from office, and it would actually have to be indicted because this person doesn't sit in his office anymore, is former Speaker of the House, Charles McCall. He had entered into the grand jury case and notified the judge, Judge Jason Reese, who was recently appointed by Governor Stitt, that he deserved to be notified if he was going to be on this, and he deserved an opportunity to speak in front of the judge before it moved forward. That's actually not true. Our Constitution protects us. We actually have the right to secrecy in our vote, and we're actually not supposed to notify anyone that's on the petition. Charles McCall, running for governor, listed to be indicted on the grand jury petition for failure to protect children while he was in office. That night, recently appointed Jason Reese, recently appointed by Governor Stitt, filed to have me arrested on bogus charges of stealing my own child and obstructing justice with a $1 million bond. In the middle of the night, I found out my child didn't feel safe while I was in jail. He voluntarily turned himself into Payne County Youth Services for protection and was told, you will be safe here for 72 hours. We will make sure you're safe. Before I move forward, I want to tell you something about police officers and sheriff's deputies. They have one of the hardest jobs in the world. And it's not because of the people they arrest below them. It's because the corrupt pieces of crap above them. Captain Lane of the Payne County Sheriff's Department came in and informed me that if my child would leave the safety of the Payne County Youth Services and go with the person he was scared of, our district attorney and Judge Reese would drop my bond from $1 million down to $250,000. My child's safety was worth $750,000 of bond to them. I said, sir, you let him stay and I'll rot in here. You do not make my child go where he doesn't feel safe, and no other adult should either. He said, I'm sorry, man, this is not my call. I got woken up in the middle of the night because my bond was dropped and my wife was able to bond me out because my child was taken out of that home. That safe home. The place in Payne County we know children go to make sure they're safe. I wouldn't be sitting here today if my child didn't go where he didn't feel comfortable. That's not a fair trade. So I needed to clear the air on that before we get started. A couple of notes. Judge Jason Reese, appointed by Governor Stitt this year. I've been asking for equal opportunity in court for 4 months. We have a bound obligation by the Constitution of the United States under original jurisdiction to make sure I have fair opportunity in court, and you have not done that. You put $1 million bond on my head on information you knew to be false because you had information already presented to you in court by 5 adults who had sworn testimony. You knew what was going on with my child. If you do not recuse on your own admission from all of my cases on Tuesday, it will be a great, great injustice. I believe the appropriate authorities that I notified by email 2 days before I arrested me to do the investigations I notified them of and the evidence I presented in their email boxes, and everyone knows who they are. This was sent to the OSBI, the Attorney General's office. We have representatives in our room today that received that notification. If you have any questions, I'm sure they can answer them. If you want to know why we need a grand jury petition in Payne County, it's because the people that are supposed to do their job are not. And because children are hurting when they shouldn't. And because when children hurt, we should stick up for them, not push them back down. Having said that, a little bit of my very little knowledge of a grand jury petition. A grand jury petition is the people's right redress of government. It's protected under the Constitution of the United States. We had some brave individuals to sign this petition we have. Was signed and requested by a group called Oklahomans for Children's Rights. That is literally just any Oklahomans that believe children have inherent human rights. And if you don't believe that, you're not a decent human, but we don't want you to be in our group. Former Senator Connie Johnson signed this. Representative Justin Humphrey signed this. Representative Trish Ranson signed this. Senator Randy Grellner signed this. I signed this. This is what we turned in. I do need to let you know, Randy Grellner is an advocate for health and kids and does good things in your community. I'm sure you guys know who he is. He has, a couple days before the call entered into our case, Randy Grellner did sign to back out of supporting this. He did say he does want DHS to be investigated. I do know he was under immense pressure, so be supportive of him. We're grateful that he signed it initially. I can't imagine what it would take to make somebody do that. I am very appreciative of Randy Grellner. I think he's going to do great things. I think he does great things. He's a doctor. He enters a lot of that ribeye into our blender. That is who signed in for this petition. In order to get a grand jury petition through, grand jury has to state by name who would be looked into. Our petition by name states the leaders and directors of our House of Representatives, our Oklahoma Commission of Children and Youth, our Oklahoma Department of Human Services, the leader of our Laura Thomas, over our district attorney, Payne County, judges in Payne County, associate judges over Payne County cases, the Chief Justice of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, because if the Supreme Court isn't doing their job, then the lower courts aren't going to do their job. There needs to be some oversight. So, you know, do we believe everyone on here is going to be indicted and removed from office? I don't know. Do we believe every single one of them has an effect on children's lives, and we need to look into why we're not getting positive outcomes out of their position? 1,000,000%. It has to state who's doing it. It can be an individual or a group, which we sign on as a group. We filed it on July 21st. It was turned back to us on July 25th. Once it was turned back to us, we had 45 days to collect the signatures. Equal to that would create law. My understanding is that'll be 16% of the number of people that voted in the last gubernatorial election in the state of Oklahoma. By my math, that's 3,542 signatures. I'm just a mechanic. Don't take my word on that. It's going to be somewhere in there. I have a feeling that with some of the people listed on the petition, when we get that number turned back to us from the courthouse, it could be a lot higher than I think. So we don't want to take any chances. We want to get as many signatures as we can get. We have till somewhere around September 9th or 10th. I don't want to risk that because, again, you know, we want to make sure that somebody doesn't make a decision on what 45 days is. It's different than what we think it is. There have been other grand jury petitions run around the state for kids, for murders, for different things. We have seen intimidation. We've seen people burning petition sheets. We've seen, I know a guy that got arrested with $1 million bond. Yeah. We've seen the most heinous things for people that just trying to stick up for their right to redress government. And so we're here to say, I'm not afraid anymore. To be real honest, I am. But I have to do this anyway. Our kids deserve it. My kids deserve it. I got 4 little boys, and they don't deserve to live in an Oklahoma that does this to children when they have children. So I'm hoping we do something about it. So, having said that, I will try to take questions. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to repeat the question, and then we'll try to answer that. And if I don't know the question, I got some people in the room that know a lot of answers to this stuff. So if anybody has something they want to know about the petition, I will tell you I'm not an attorney. I don't have all the answers, but I'll do my best because we've certainly been in this fight for a while. Some of the questions have been asked to me, and until somebody gets brave enough to ask something, I don't know if I've scared everyone off. The goal of a grand jury petition is to be able to collect, and this is crazy. We talked about how it could be bad to be secret. When you go in to vote on a regular vote, your vote is secret. It's supposed to be secret. It's supposed to be secret so that you can't be intimidated, so that the public can't be chilled for or induced against how you vote. So your signature is your vote, and it should be secret. It should be private. Nobody should have it. We saw in Wagner County the district attorney and the sheriff wanted to get everyone's signatures and go prosecute them. I think the federal government slapped that down pretty good. So one of the questions was secrecy. Secrecy is a plus. It is part of why we are who we are. It's our right to vote unimpeded and not to be discouraged or improperly encouraged to vote a certain way. So that was one of the questions I had. Does somebody else have a question they'd like to ask? And again, I don't know if I know the answer, but I'll do my best.
Daryl, I just like to point out there, I see some parents in the room and some family members that have had issues with some of the same kind of issues with DHS and whatnot, and there is a lot of fear out there from people afraid to sign. I had a grandmother tell me yesterday that her attorney contacted her and told her that if she signed this petition, he would not represent her any longer in Payne County.
Yeah. The question was, should people be fearful if there are parents trying to protect their kids and they sign this, there'll be retaliation? I can't tell you there's not going to be retaliation. I can tell you you shouldn't be afraid to sign. And if you sign with somebody and you're worried about that, just say, hey, I'm signing your petition. I want mine to be secret. And you know what? Take that petition, even if it only has one signature on it, fold it over. Don't let anyone see who signed it. Go get it notarized. Protect that person's privacy, and then go turn that one sheet into us with just that one signature, and we'll keep it private. Right? That's what we do. That I will tell you, I have been stunned at the number of attorneys that are signing this petition. You heard me say that, right? Attorneys are signing this petition, and attorneys are signing this petition because if attorneys actually care and they're working in the system and they've seen this happen, they actually know they're protected by federal law. People can't retaliate against them for signing. That's a federal crime, right?
I think what's important for all of us to understand is that the only way that we can change the system and force accountability is to stand up to it. And so rather than be afraid of signing, I think we need to be diligent about collecting the signatures that we need to impanel a grand jury, and then we force accountability, and we don't have to be fearful anymore. Because we have some pretty decent laws in place to protect children.
We do.
But they're not followed, and that's all we're asking for, is to have some accountability to say, you didn't follow the law, we want to hold you accountable for it. And if we can do that with this petition, then we will eliminate a lot of fear.
Right. You don't need to be afraid of this. I don't think you need to be afraid of this. I'm not afraid of the petition. I'm afraid to sign the petition. I'm afraid to move forward with the petition. We have to do that. I'm afraid of political retaliation, which is why, even though we had so many awesome legislators support this, we have legislators from across the state supporting this. I woke up this morning, I hadn't seen my phone in a couple of days, and to see the legislators from across the state that were sharing my post was just so refreshing. People from both sides of the aisle. We've got to get on board and do this, because if this corruption can do this, then we've got to get it shut down. And so to follow up on what she said, none of you have seen a solution to the hurt we're causing our kids. You haven't in our lifetime. You have not seen it. We've asked our officials to do it. We've had good officials trying to do it. We've asked, law enforcement. We've asked executive branch. We've asked, and everybody feels like even if they're trying, they feel like they're held down. They can't. One man can't do it. Two men can't do it. I can't do it. I've been working on this in 1995 when I started advocating for children and the heinous things that were happening in detention facilities. 20 years ago, a kid I advocated for was in a detention facility. The young child was raped. His rectum was torn open. He was taken to an emergency room. The guard stayed with him, moved him back into the facility, and there was never even an investigation done by law enforcement. That was 2004. In 2024, the Tulsa Juvenile Detention Facility, the director of OCCY, the director of Oklahoma DHS weren't allowing law enforcement into the facility to check on rape and sexual battery. So the federal government had to go in and protect those children. We haven't seen a solution, and that's what she's saying. We haven't seen a solution. We haven't found somebody that can help. We've had people try to help, but they get pushed down. And so this is our opportunity to lift everyone up, to stand together and say, hey, this isn't, by the way, you look at the petition, everyone on the list has affected children in Payne County. Everyone on the list has affected children in Payne County, but you see people that are over all of Oklahoma. So if we're right, we're going to correct this across the state of Oklahoma from Payne County. So let's just do it right once and get it over with. And then maybe the Attorney General from the state of Oklahoma, who's been asked to do it across the state, would say, well, I said no to Payne County and I said no to the state, but maybe now that the people came in and said Payne County happened and it was clearly across the state, maybe I should do it across the state, right? I mean, maybe we will get that. You got a question in the back there? Right, so people want to know, am I signing my life away? Am I signing this person to 100 years in jail? No. You're signing this saying, we'd like an investigation to know if anybody on this list has done anything against children and their families that would say they could be or should be indicted or removed from office. Has anybody they work with, work for, hired, engaged, been complicit or collusive in putting children further in harm's way? What is an example of this? What is an example of this? I'll use mine. I mean, if I'm going to be the target, it might as well be me. My child had multiple calls to Oklahoma DHS when he was young. I made one of those. I'm an obligated reporter. I did. I didn't make 2 calls on the other ones. My child went in to forensic interviews. He never had the luxury of law enforcement engaging any of his investigations, being present when he did his forensic interviews, writing reports on what happened to him. So there was no custody of evidence, trail of what happened. There was no. I got an email from the director of the Seville Center in Oklahoma and said, Mr. Doherty, we don't really know what's going on here. Your child's been in multiple times. DHS has never involved the police, and we don't understand the reports. You should probably have those subpoenaed and see what's going on. Well, there's this thing called multidisciplinary teams, and I think we kind of list them in our thing. District attorneys are required to keep multidisciplinary teams to protect children. What that means is if there's concern for a child and you want to err on the concern side, don't err on the cover-up side. If they need an investigation, you ask law enforcement to do that. Not a brand new DHS caseworker. If they're hurt or sick, you ask a doctor to look at them. Not a new DHS worker. If there's a counselor, they need a counselor. If they're concerned with their mental well-being or distress, you have a forensic interviewer or a counselor, work with them. You put a professional in the room with a child when it's needed. And that's what's not happening, if you're wondering. What's not happening is children aren't getting the professionals in the room, and our district attorneys aren't requiring that to happen. And then what happens is there's like a little mistake, or somebody misses something, or somebody doesn't do something. And rather than saying, oh man, I forgot to call the police and have them look through the window, even though I know it's required by law, they say, yes, I swear under oath, Your Honor, I think I had police there that day. That's what happened in my case, right? And we're talking about different people from different worlds and different injuries and different things. And so these are how we fail our kids. It's a broader scope than that. It's just simple. Another question back there.
It would seem that investigation would be welcome if there's no law to it.
Yes.
I know that when we were falsely accused, we were excited to have the investigation, but we begged for lie detector testing.
So, yeah, the question is, should you be afraid to be investigated if you're on the petition? And the answer is, if you haven't done anything wrong, absolutely not. you should want that investigation. Come help us collect signatures. If you're on this list and you know you haven't done anything against children, I've got a packet. You come get it. I know what the list of names is. None of them have asked me for a petition yet, but that's a good idea. If you know you haven't done anything wrong, come get a packet, collect signatures. You can help us get this done. I think we're going to get this done. You're in good company. You're in with thousands of people that are wanting to get this done. I am uncomfortable with the fact that we have not been told the date it is due, and I am uncomfortable with the fact that we have not been told the exact number due. So let's just get way more than we need. Let's get it in the day before we think it would be due. And, let's let an open book and light on the subject, see what's going on.
There's a question from Facebook. Somebody says, I have a question. If being a resident of Payne County is required in order to sign a petition and have the signature counted as valid, how would individuals who have a court case in Payne County but do not reside there be able to cast their vote? That's just
Well,
heard about friends here.
Right. The question is, if you're before the court in Payne County, but you're not a registered voter, you cannot sign this petition. But you should absolutely call everyone you know in Payne County and have them come sign the petition.
Yes.
I will say, I believe 100% in my soul that this guy, who was very transparent, only ever asked for my child to have a voice. My child's voice was stamped out from the very highest levels of our government. I believe that in my case, there's extreme partiality in the courtroom, and there is extreme desire to get me to be quiet. But I will say, I've been watching some of the cases around Payne County. I've seen that our higher-ups in DHS are going to court more often. I've seen that there's a perk up a little bit. There's maybe our judges need to make sure they're getting all of the information, and maybe our DA needs to cross the T's and dot the I's. I think we're starting to see that they're being more careful about what they do because it looks like we might get the signatures. But I will also say it has been stunning and saddening and scary to see the number of people that I know in Payne County that I didn't know were suffering with this. They were suffering quietly, and they're starting to give their testimonies publicly, and we all know them. And we've seen lots of young children hurt in bad ways, so we know we need this. We got another question over here.
I have an open juvenile department case. My son's back there. He's in state custody. One time I requested 88 accommodations for it to be recorded and transcribed. I was denied that. And at my most recent JD court hearing, there was a new device and they recorded it and offered for us to pay for it to be transcribed. And Justin Hohenschel, the director of DHS, showed up to my JD court hearing. Do you feel like they got that device and started doing that to cover their butts, basically?
There has been a big change in courts just in the last year or two, and some of it's from COVID, I think. And you always had to have a court reporter. You had to request a court reporter, 2 to 3 weeks in advance, or you just out of luck. Now they're allowing the courts to have recording devices in. You can request a recording device in, just a few days in advance because it's not hard to make happen. And then you're supposed to be able to request the transcripts from those, and those are supposed to be readily available. Lately, they haven't been. We're short on the court reporters. I understand that, but let's talk about some of the injustices that happen and what she just brought up. Okay.
Ask me one thing.
I want to address it before you do any further. You can't get a transcript because you can't afford it. I'm sorry. You should have a transcript whether you can afford it or not. You can't get a court reporter because you can't afford it. You can call in time. Sorry, you should have it or not. Due process demands that you have a fair hearing and you have a right to appeal that hearing, and you should have it no matter what. That's not happening. We have a lot of cases in our juvenile right now that they're putting recorder up. They're saying they have a recorder up, and then afterwards they say, we actually didn't have the recorder on. We didn't get a recording on. We don't have a recording for you. That whole hearing should be stricken and thrown out. If you don't have proof of what happened in that courtroom, you shouldn't. One more thing I'll address on that, and then I'll come back to you. Child safety laws child privacy laws, keeping things private on behalf of the child, are not meant to protect the child protective workers that messed up. They're there to protect the child because their information shouldn't be out there unnecessarily. When a child raises his hand, you know what that child is saying? I sacrifice my privacy. I need help. And we say, hush, shh, put your hand down. You don't get a voice. You don't get safety because we have a right to your privacy. And that's not right. That is not right at all. You wanted another question.
Yes, thank you for what you said. And before they got that new recording device that's already in the courtroom now, the judge and the DA both previously told me I was not allowed to record anything because they got word that I recorded all the stuff. And then the DA provided me in her discovery some kind of like gag order type thing, saying that I was not allowed to record anything and I was not allowed to talk to absolutely anyone about my case. Is that something that most people experience in juvenile private court?
Yeah, I actually work with quite a few families from around the state right now. When they're denied transcripts or they're told that their recordings aren't available, they've started recording their own hearings. And I'm pretty sure, and I am not an attorney, do not act on my advice, but it looks like the Constitution of the United States allows you to record your own hearing. But you're told by local court rules you can't. But the Constitution says no court rules or statute that interferes with the Constitution are lawful.
There are family members all around this room shaking their head that they've been
Right.
told that they have to remain silent, that they're not allowed to tell, that their information is confidential,
Right.
that they can't talk to people. Look at everybody around the room
Right.
shaking their head.
Make sure you keep your child's information private. It's going to protect those CPS workers that committed crimes against them.
Amen.
Yeah. Did I get to finish answering your question on recording? I do think that's a major issue.
He denied it, but to have the DA be, I guess, brave enough to write up paperwork and give it to me and tell me I'm not allowed to record
Right.
it, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. And I also filed a petition for a grand jury, and I got told I don't have that right.
What do you want to bet there'll be an order on Tuesday against me? Let's be honest, right? I agree with
I know
you.
what you're talking about, but my
No, I mean, I'm speaking about my son's case. I shouldn't be speaking about it publicly. There's probably going to be a gag order put on me on Tuesday. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. The same thing happened to you.
every time I speak
Yeah.
out, I get a new thing, and I
Right.
get retaliated upon, and I'm just advocating for my child, and
That's right.
it's real.
That's right. We need child protective services. We need our community to stand around our children. Everybody disagrees how we should do that. You know, do we need any government office or not? Should it be happening through our community? But we do need this. I mean, we need to come around these families and help them and teach them and give them the support they need and accept support when we need it. And we need this community. I'm not saying any of these, you know, we get a lot of really awesome Oklahoma DHS employees, by the way. I work with them, speak with them on a daily basis now. I am so grateful for some of the Oklahoma DHS employees we have in Payne County. They are amazing. They care about our kids. They love our kids. They're working hard on behalf of our kids. But every agency has people that don't get it right. So do we let them not get it right, cover it up, and then they have to commit a crime against somebody to save their job? No. Let's retrain. Let's restaff. Let's help them get it right. That's the whole goal of this. I mean, from bottom to top, let's go look. Why aren't we protecting our kids? And I think, just like many of these other cases, I think you can see my case, my child's well-being has been affected from the bottom to the top. So let's just go ask. Let's go look at it, right? So we are going to be doing all kinds of social media requests for your signature. Come out and sign. We're going to be doing drive-in signs where you can just drive by. You don't have to get out of your car and you can sign. your neighbors and friends have these packets. We have hundreds of people across Oklahoma with packets in their hands. If you have a packet, let people know on social media you have it. They'll come to you. People will come to you. We need to get this through. We need to get it done. We need to make sure that we get this looked into. And you know what? If it's found that nobody on this list has done anything wrong, I will apologize personally right here from this room to everyone on the list, because they'll deserve that. Somebody else have a question?
I'm going to read you a question from Facebook. So, Don Burkmeyer wants to know, will this grand jury petition only be for Kane County if and when it is investigated? I've had my own case in Osage County 7 years ago and an ongoing case in Noble County with Judge Leach.
Judge Leach. I should be careful talking about Judge Leach. He has tried to have me arrested 4 times, was successful once. This investigation is based off of children in Payne County. Everyone on the list has affected an investigation in Payne County or they wouldn't be on the list. Chief Justice Dustin Rowe made a decision that affected children in Payne County. Assistant Attorney General Galen Geiger made a decision in a multi-county grand jury situation that affected children in Payne County. The director of DHS, clearly. The director of OCCY, clearly. So we have Payne County specific judges. We have judges that work from other counties like Judge Leach that are associate judges in Payne County that do cases when they get moved out of Payne County. Everyone on the list has affected Payne County children. So have they affected them in a negative way is the question. Many of the people on the list, umbrella goes over Oklahoma. Many of the people's list, umbrella goes over multiple counties. So if those people are investigated, it's clearly going to have an effect beyond Payne County, which, you know, his specific question was about Judge Leach. We have had some Payne County children that have had some very questionable outcomes under Judge Leach. I might get gag ordered for that. So this will definitely look into children across Oklahoma, not just Payne County, but the list includes people that have had an effect on children in Payne County. We know it has affected hundreds of children in Payne County, maybe thousands, but we know it has affected thousands and tens of thousands of our children across the state. So this is a broader request. Another question?
I'd like somebody asked me before, how can we get it to where it stretches out throughout Oklahoma?
Oh, that's an awesome question. I meant to start with that. There's a difference between a multi-county grand jury investigation and a grand jury investigation. So a multi-county grand jury investigation can only be ordered by the Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma. And he was requested that of Adam Cantor, who's the district attorney just south of us, who has 2 counties south of us, but actually has a lot of cases from Payne County under his purview. And that was denied. Now, he did get a big stipend of money, which from the Attorney General's office, which allowed him to do some other things in his office, but he did not get the multi-county grand jury. So a multi-county grand jury could be ordered by the Attorney General. A grand jury can only be in 1 county. So every county would have to do what we're doing and have a process of a grand jury petition by signature if they want to do it in their county. And you certainly have that. That's the right to redress of government is very constitutionally protected. What we're doing is very constitutionally protected. We are acting well within the rights and well within, I think, what we are responsible to do as adults, since we know the people that are supposed to be doing it aren't. I think we're definitely doing what we're supposed to be doing. Any other questions? I'll tell you what, I meant to keep this short. I'm going to answer a couple more questions to get out of here because I want to get out and collect signatures because I want to get this done. A couple more questions? Anybody else?
Can we hear from JJ?
We have kept this out of the politics. This is not political. If you want to speak with me, we are very blessed to have some people that care about our kids from around the state, whether they're elected officials or advocates. They're here today. Anybody wants to stay around and ask questions with them, I highly encourage that, because the people in this room know way more than I do. The goal today was to let everyone know this is not political. People from both sides of the aisles do this. I was out at the Payne County Fair today, and I promise you, after getting released from jail only about 9 hours prior, I literally started crying at the Payne County Fair when I saw both the Payne County Republicans and the Payne County Democrats were collecting signatures for these children. This is not hard enough. So this was not what I thought today was going to look like. I hope I got what everyone wanted. I will stay around for a little bit, but I'm going to be honest with you. Hit me up on Facebook. Come by and see me at 524 South Main Street. I'll answer any questions I can. Again, I'm not an attorney. I can't tell you any of these things or what they are, but I can find the law and we can read it together and I can show you what I've read. But I want to collect signatures. So I want to get out of here. I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank all those thousands of people that have already signed this. I want to thank all the advocates that are doing this. You will see during the opportunity at 524 South Main Street to just drive through and sign. I'm hoping all day, every day until this is done. We're also going to try and have some drive-through and signs at the address of
708 East Main.
708 East Main in Cushing. But if you have a packet, let your friends and family know that you have it so they know it's easy to get to you in case it's hard for them to get to us. If not, hit up somebody you know has a packet, and we are sending volunteers daily out to elderly care facilities, out to apartment complexes, to individuals one-on-one at home. We're going to make sure you have a right to cast your vote for the redress of government through a grand jury of petition by signature. Thank you guys very much.